All right.
We're a little bit behind time here, huh? But
A little bit behind time, but looking good.
okay, let's see if let me get it started here.
Why don't I take a moment and introduce you and
Okay,
welcome everybody to the TNPS Native Plant Seminar. Our presenter tonight is Dr. Larry Pounds. Larry received his doctorate in plant ecology from the University of Tennessee. And he's been fortunate enough to make a living mostly hiking around looking for rare plants.
I kind of cheated on the system there.
He has worked as a botanical consultant for several organizations, including TVA and Oak Ridge National Laboratory. He serves on the boards of the Tennessee Native Plant Society, Tennessee Citizens for Wilderness Planning, and the Cumberland Trails Conference. He often leads wildflower walks for the public. And in his semi-retirement, Larry has discovered the joy of writing. He is co-author of Wildly Strolling Along About the Cumberland Trail, and currently is writing a novel called Family Scent. So our talk tonight is going to be on Beyond Spring Wildflowers and the Cumberland Trail here. So
okay, yeah.
Larry, take it away.
All right, thank you, Karen. I'm breathing a great sigh of relief. I guess persistence is what it takes. I wasn't quite hitting I thought I was hitting all the right buttons, but I wasn't anyway. So here we come to the end of the season for looking at wildflowers in the wild, which makes me a little sad, but we can all think about all the things we're going to do next year, all the plants we're going to go look for. So I'm going to start up here on my slides. We're actually going to have two topics tonight. One is the fall wildflowers, and the other is going to be a thing about inflorescences of a certain type. We'll get to that later. So the first slide that you see here, this is a fall scene on a riparian zone. Excellent place to see your fall wildflowers. What's left of them at this point. And sometimes you can see them, but not in great condition when it gets this late in the season. So we're going to excuse me? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All righty. First, we're going to talk about the composite flowers, which are so many of the fall wildflowers. Composite flowers are in the Asteraceae, that's a family. And you can see my pointer as I understand it. So I'm looking at this thing that says radiate head here. So when we're talking about composite flowers, this is not a single flower, but this is many flowers put together. So you have the ones in the center, which are called the disc flowers, and the ones on the outside, which are called the ray flowers. So each one of those things that looks like a petal actually connects down at its base to being a flower. So there are, in the composite family, you can have three forms of flowers. The one we're just looking at right here that I've got the arrow on is the one that has both the ray flowers and the disc flowers. You can have flowers with just the disc flowers, and you can have flowers with just the ray flowers, or ligulate as it says on the diagram here. I'm going to give examples of the first two types, this one and this one. This one we're not going to have any examples in the program tonight, but this is one you can think of. A common example. The dandelion is of this form. Looks like this. You can see up here they show you a sketch of a disc flower and a ray flower. So let's go ahead and get into some of the fall flowers. Okay, look what we have here. We have one of these composite flowers. It has the ray flowers and the disc flowers. And this is a sunflower. This is one of the ones that grows later in the season. So this is the narrow leaf sunflower, Helianthus angustifolius. And one thing I want to point out is that oftentimes the common names are merely translations of the scientific names. So in this case, Helianthus, that basically means sunflower, which is part of the common name, and angustifolius Angus means narrow, and folius means leaf. So this is exactly a translation of the common name. The scientific name has been translated to give you the common name in this case. Now, how would you tell this from other sunflowers? Well, it says it's a narrow leaf sunflower. So I'm going to show you another picture here. Here's a picture of the actual very, very narrow leaves, very long and narrow. You'll have no trouble identifying this plant if you look at the leaves. Now, here's one that looks almost the same thing. But funnily enough, it's called a false sunflower, and it's in a different genus. This is not Helianthus anymore. This is Heliopsis, which means having the appearance of the sun in Latin. It's Helianthus helianthoides. So Helianthus with the oides on the end means it's like a Helianthus. So this one, how is it different from sunflowers? Why is it a false sunflower? Well, if you look at the areas, the flowers that make up the composite flower, some will produce seeds and some will not. In this case, all the disc flowers can produce seeds, and also the ray flowers. Now, in the Helianthus, the sunflowers, only the disc can produce seeds. Now, this is not an easy way to make an identification trying to figure out where the seeds are. But I'll show you something about this plant, the false sunflower, which will make it easier to identify. So here we have the base of the false sunflower, and you see it has opposite leaves. And from the top opposite leaves come out these stems, which have the flowers on them. And now look at the veination in the leaves. You have three main veins, one central one and two lateral. And notice how the lateral have some very distinct veins. So if you look at this, you can identify the false sunflower and tell it from other sunflowers by the way these leaves lay out opposite, and with the in the axil. This is the place between the stem and the leaf is called the axil or angle, and out of that shoots out the flower. And if you look at all these things, you can identify this and tell it from the other sunflowers. Okay, here, we're leaving the sunflowers and the false sunflowers, and we're coming to the golden asters. We have two different species of golden aster in this picture. If you look at the one to the left, that's the grass-leaved golden aster, Pityopsis graminifolia. And you can look down here. Here would be one of these very grass-like leaves. It has whitened stems, has a lot of long white hairs on it. So this is Pityopsis graminifolia. And once we're talking about how often the common names are translation, graminifolia means exactly the same thing as grass-leaved. So this is Pityopsis graminifolia. The other golden aster in the picture, that's Maryland golden aster, has very different leaves, don't look like grass at all. They don't show up very well in the picture, but there they are. And it also has these long white hairs, which are a little bit hard to see. Let me show you with the magnification here. If you look here, you can see some of these long white hairs on the stem here. This helps to identify it. So we have seen two species of golden aster. These are perhaps the most common. There's a third one, which is fairly common. This one, the camphor golden aster. And the scientific name is Heterotheca camporum. And you might think that somehow camphor was a translation of camporum, but it's not the case. The Latin here, camporum, means plains, and this camphor refers to the smell of the plant. So it's kind of misleading. In this case, we don't have a common name, which is a translation of the Latin. So those are the three most common on the Cumberland Plateau of the golden asters. Here's a black-eyed Susan. This is one you may not be familiar with. This one grows in woodlands. And this one is getting old. It's lost some of its ray flowers, you can see here. The bases of some of these leaves here get to be rather cordate, have a cordate shape to them. And you can see this one grows in a floodplain. You can see where it was flooded with sand here at the bottom. So this is Appalachian orange coneflower, Rudbeckia. The Rudbeckias are the black-eyed Susans. Ambrosia. Ambrosa means that it grows in shade. That's indicating shade. So once again, not a translation of the common name. Here's a rather blurry one. We're going to go into goldenrods. The one on the left that I'm pointing at there has all the flowers up on the top of the branch. All the goldenrod flowers are on the top. Oh, these are heads, actually. You remember with composites. This one over here has all around, so it's not secund. So this is secund is a word that helps you a whole lot in trying to figure out the identification of goldenrods. So here's an example. This one is definitely secund. You see all the flowers are up on top. It bends around and the dips over, makes an arc. That's often the case with secund flowers. Here's the stem going down. It has grayish hairs on it. And you notice that the leaves are mostly around the bottom. That's what we call basally disposed leaves. So it is as secund flowers and basally disposed, has these grayish hairs. And this will identify for you gray goldenrod or Solidago nemoralis. This is a very common goldenrod. You'll see this in old fields, along roadsides, one of our most common on the Cumberland Plateau and elsewhere in Tennessee. Let's continue with the goldenrods. Here are some of the taller goldenrods that you see commonly. The one on the right is secund, has those curving one-sided inflorescences, and this one over here is not. These are the two common tall ones. Actually, there's one very similar to this I've mentioned here. This is the Solidago gigantea, which has a smooth stem rather than a rough stem, which is like this one. So those are three of the common tall golden asters. Goldenrods. Now here's another goldenrod, and you can see it's secund. It is bushy, rather a dense growth. And this one is wrinkled leafed goldenrod, Solidago rugosa. In this case, rugosa does mean wrinkled. And the way to recognize this one for sure is to look for those wrinkled leaves. So I'm going to show you a picture that shows the wrinkled leaves. Here are the very wrinkly sort of leaves. So that allows you to identify easily that goldenrod. Here's a goldenrod with a very different inflorescence or form to the flowers on it. They form either what might be called a wand or a club kind of shape. So this is hairy goldenrod, Solidago hispida. And I've got more of a close-up here. And sometimes a plant will have more than one of these wands to it. This one right here in the center, you can see has, I think, 4 at least. So it's a robust plant, very large. Most of the time, they'll have just one wand, one of these elongated inflorescences. Once again, a very different goldenrod. This is a forest goldenrod, one that you would find in the forest rather than out in the open. Notice the very long leaves in the inflorescence of flowers. And I'll give you another picture. You can see clearly how that works. So here we are with our wreath goldenrod, Solidago casea. And in the angle, here between the stem and the leaf, you'll find the goldenrod flowers. The heads of flowers are found there. And there's another one which is very similar. I'm going to show you a picture of it. Here it is. This one hasn't started to flower yet. But notice the striations, the lines on here. This makes it a different goldenrod. This is Curtis's goldenrod, Solidago curtisii. Okay, we're done with the goldenrods. And once again, we're having a disc type of composite. All these are disc flowers here. And this is a blazing star, a liatris, tall blazing star, liatris aspera. And some of you that went out to the Oak Ridge Cedar Barrens got to see this plant in bloom there. It also grows on the Cumberland Plateau. There's another species of liatris, or blazing star, which looks very similar. And I've had trouble identifying the two of them, but I've kind of studied it and looked at it. This one is the southern blazing star, Liatris squarulosa. And the tricky little thing to identifying this is to look at the foliaries. I don't know if you remember back for composite plants, there is a base of involucral bracts. And I've torn off a couple of those bracts from the two different species. The top one is the Elytris squarulosa, and it's flat. The bottom one is from Elytris aspera, and it has a hump here. You can't see the 3 dimensions very well in the picture, but this has a hump here. It also is lacerated. It has deeper cuts in it than this one does. And that's the way I found best to tell between those two blazing stars I showed you before, the Elytris squarulosa and the Elytris aspera. Okay, we've left our blazing stars now, but we're still looking at flowers that grow in heads. They're composites. They're having all the disc flowers completely. This is a forest growing one, white snakeroot. And this is an interesting one because if a cow eats this, it produces poisonous milk. And it turns out, at least in the stories, that Abraham Lincoln's mother died from drinking milk from a cow that had eaten this plant, the white snakeroot, Ageratina altissima. And I want to show you a leaf from this plant and look at it. It has a rounded teeth on the edge, not very sharp. It's also rather membranous. It's rather thin-leaved. Now we're going to look at a close relative of it. So here we have small-flowered white snakeroot, Ageratina aromatica. I'm going to show you the leaf of it and show you how it differs so you can tell the two different white snakeroots apart. So you look here and notice that the teeth are sharp a little bit. They're not completely rounded off. And this is a rather thick, rather leathery, coriaceous leaf. So that's how you can tell those two different white snakeroots apart. Okay, here's one where I would ask you to help me out a little bit. I took a picture of a butterfly here, and of course, I don't know anything about butterflies, but I got into my Rita Venable book and looked at the pictures, and I guessed that this is what it is. So some of you can tell me on chat whether I got it right, I guess. I'll find out whether this is actually an eastern tiger swallowtail. So what's the flower in the picture?
Thistle.
It's a thistle, right. And this is a good place to look for the involucrum with all the bracts here. You can see them very well in this picture of this composite. So this is a discoid head with all disc flowers. And what species is it? This is field thistle, Cirsium discolor, very common thistle, and a rather pretty one. Okay, also in the fall, we see a lot of this plant, which is also a composite with discoid flowers, no rays. This is a thoroughwort. In this particular thoroughwort, this is hyssop-leaved thoroughwort, Eupatorum hyssopifolium. And a good way to distinguish it is by its whorled leaves, which are not so easy to see in the picture, but there are whorled leaves off the stem down here. Wow, look at this. A field full of asters, huh? This is a small aster, but can form very dense displays like this. So this is bushy aster, Symphyotrichum domosum. And in fact, here's a case where domosum means bushy. The Latin translates for the common name here. I'm going to show you in the next slide two very similar species. So they're not in great shape, but the one, as you see over on the left, is still our bushy aster with these small little leaves throughout it. And now you look over here, the old field aster has these dense groupings of small leaves. So there's a way you can tell these two apart, otherwise they're very similar. They're both very common in our fields. Here's a lovely aster. So here's the stem right here. And from it come branches, and way out at the end of the branches, there'll be a single flower. So it is a widely spreading. That's what patens means in its name. That the flowers widely spreading from each other. And it's a clasping aster. I'm going to show you in the next picture why it's a clasping aster. Okay, here are its leaves. You see a leaf here coming down and clasping. See how it clasps? Joins around the stem. So this is your clasping aster. This is a really distinctive aster. As you can see in this one, instead of the normal layout of an aster, all of the flowers and the leaves are sort of stuck close to the stem. Very odd the way that flowers and leaves are very close to the stem. This one is unbranched. Sometimes this will be branched, but this is an unusual one. This is Eastern Silvery Aster, Symphyotrichum concolor. Very distinctive. This one you can't mistake it. You can identify this one if you see it. Not terribly common, but on the Cumberland Plateau, you'll occasionally find these under the power lines. And here's an aster that's in a different genus. We've been showing you the Symphyotrichum asters. The genus Aster used to be one enormous genus, and now almost all of what was in the aster genus in North America are in other genera. So it's been totally split up. This is not in the Symphyotrichums, which I've been showing you. This is an Ionactus in the area of folia. It's called an ankle aster because that's about the height of them. Look at the leaves on this guy. They're stiff and rather linear, rather parallel-sided. This is a small aster, only getting up to your ankles or maybe a bit higher in some cases. This is common in the cobble bars, the Cumberland Plateau. Here we go to another genus that was in the split up of aster, the big genus. So this is white wood aster, Eurybia. So we had Symphyotrichum, and then we had Ionactus, and now we have Eurybia, part of the split up of the genus Aster. So Eurybia divaricata has these heart-shaped bases, big teeth, grows in the forest, and then blooms in the fall. And here's another Eurybia, and I don't know why this is grouped into the Eurybia. There are a couple plants sort of like this, and they're in the Eurybia, but they're so very different. This is creeping aster, Eurybia sucralosa. And it grows in the rocky areas. That's why I sort of put it up against the rock to show it to you. Okay, the wing stems. So we have 3 common species of wing stem. This picture has 2 of them in it. Here's the white wing stems up here. Here's the yellow wing stem. So what is a wing stem? Here's the picture to show the winging on the stem. So the wing stem species have winging, and if you don't see it near the top of the stem, look further down so you can identify the wing stem. Wing stem, once it dies back, does something very interesting in many cases. This is something you want to locate your wing stem flowers and then come back to them later when they've died back, and when the ground is still unfrozen, but the air is very cold, an interesting thing can happen. The capillary action can pull the water out of the soil, which then freezes and comes out of the holes in the wing stem, the wing stem plant right there. So this is something why you want to go out and locate your wing stem plants now and know to go back to see them when these conditions occur, where you have the water in the ground, but the air is freezing. Very beautiful, the frost sticks called frost flowers. Okay, phlox. You don't think of it as a fall flower, but this was taken in October, this picture. And this is not a very common phlox. This has a very broad leaf. So this is broadleaf phlox, Phlox amplifolia, and it can bloom all the way into the fall, as you say, into October. It looks in good condition here in October. Now we get to what I think are the most emblematic flowers of the fall, the gentians. We'll start out with the dwarf gentians. So this is dwarf gentian. Gentianella quincifolius is the scientific name. And what I'm saying here, this 2 centimeters versus 4 centimeters. The dwarf gentians are maybe about 2 centimeters long, whereas the other gentians are about 4 centimeters long. And the dwarf gentians are rather narrow built. Now I'm going to show you another picture here. The first one you saw was rather reddish. This is the more typical color for the dwarf gentians. Now we come to some of my really favorites of the gentians. This one, the common name they've given for this one is harvest bells. Now I'm used to it being called soapwort gentian, which is a translation of the scientific name, but I thought this is a prettier name, harvest bells, so I'm going with that common name. So this is a wetland gentian. Now, this may look different, but this is the same species, a bluer color. This is actually taken in the same area. Both the dark blue and the light blue both were found in the same area, a wetland. And once again, we've got the same thing, only here it is wide open. You see in some of the books, it says that the soapwort gentian or the harvest bells are not a species which opens, but they certainly do. And one thing I want you to notice, which is very helpful in identifying gentians, is look down here. This is the calyx. So these things are sticking out here are the calyx lobes. And notice that the calyx lobes on this particular species are widest above middle. They're way out here at the end that they're widest. So that's important to separating it from other species which may look very similar. So here you might think, okay, here's another picture of the harvest bells. Nope, this is a different species. This is showy gentian, Gentiana decora. I need to show you the calyx lobes on this one so you can see the difference. So I've produced a slide where you can see them side by side. So over here, here's the harvest bells. It's a little hard to see the calyx lobes on this, but they're widest above middle. Now look at the calyx lobes over here on the showy gentian. They're rather parallel-sided. They don't widen out suddenly out toward the end of the plant. So that's a way to tell between these two species. Otherwise, they're quite similar. Hard to tell apart. Now, some of you may have met James Pringle. He graduated from the University of Tennessee with his PhD in studying gentians. And that was in 1967. He has been coming regularly to the wildflower pilgrimage in the Smokies year after year. I hope he's still alive. He's probably getting fairly elderly. He lives up in Canada and comes down for the wildflower pilgrimage in the Smokies. And this is from his work, his dissertation. I've added some things here to clarify it. So number 5 here is the harvest bells. And what he shows here is if you took and slit the flower and flattened it out, you would get this. This is the inside of the plant. These are the stamens, and these are the lobes of the corolla, and these are called the pleats, the things that connect them. This is the calyx, and you can see it's been flattened out and shown the picture of here. So I've gotten here to show you again the difference between the calyx lobes here of the harvest bells, and here's the calyx lobes, the showy gentian. Quite different. We've got another gentian. This is a gentian which is whitish and greenish, sometimes rather quite green. This one's fairly whitish, and this is called the striped gentian. And it really is not very stripy, but if you look inside, and you can look up in here, you can see some of the striping. So this was taken September 22nd. And I've got another picture of the same plant. This was taken in late October. So this is about a month later. And interesting how it has changed with time. It sort of closed back up in a way. They were more open in the first picture. So this is striped gentian again. And this is at a later period and probably the same plant. I took them different years, but I took them in exactly the same place. Now we come to something that's interesting. The gentians tend to be closed up. But you can see what happened here. We had a bumblebee come and open up in order to get to the nectar and the pollen inside. So the question would be, why does the gentians make it hard for the bees to pollinate them? And there really is a good reason for this. If you make it selective, so that you select a particular bee, then you may be able to get that particular bee to go from one of your flowers to another of the same species. This is called trap lining. And what this does, it means that your pollen won't get wasted as easily. So you have a reduction in pollen loss by having the pollen move from one flower of your species to another flower of that same species. So it actually can do the pollination and create seeds. Oh, this is a lovely one. So this is the kidney leaf grass of Parnassus, Parnassia aerifolia, which actually means that it's like a wild ginger rather than kidney. They're referring to a different idea about the leaves, the kidney shape versus the wild ginger shaped leaves. So here's a leaf, here's a stalk, here's a flower stalk going up. Here's a leaf on the stem, and then they have a lot of basal leaves down here too. And here's one that's actually formed a fruit already. So here's the top view. Look at this. Now we can see the veination, the lovely veination in the grass of Parnassus. And of course, it's not a grass at all, right? Not a grass, but it's called grass of Parnassus for some. Look at what's down below. Do you see the moss down there? That's peat moss. And this is a bog plant, usually growing in boggy areas of the Cumberland Plateau. And here's another one of our fall lovelies. This one says it's a white turtle head, but oftentimes you'll find them with this tinging of red. And if you look at them sort of end on, they do look a bit like a turtle head. So this is Chelone glabra, white turtle head. And here we have a picture that is actually of one species, but it has two color phases, as you can see here. It has a pink one, and this is blue. And the camera didn't get it as blue as it was in reality. You want to look here what I'm pointing at. It has a long pedicel on it. So that's one of the characteristics to identifying which one this is. This is slender leaf false foxglove, Agellinus tenuifolia. This is once again a translation. Slender leaf is exactly the same as tenuifolia in Latin. Okay, here is a single slender leaf false foxglove flower, Agellinus tenuifolia. The corolla in this flower has 5 lobes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inside the flower, we see here is the pistil, and here are the stamens. And one interesting thing you can see here is that these upper lobes of the corolla arch over it, and this is a characteristic of this particular species. This is you can identify very easy if you can see this overarching. Now I'm going to show you a species that doesn't do that. Here there's no overarching. So this is a different species of the false foxglove. This is Agellinus purpurea, purpurea meaning purple, just like at the translation. And this one has very short pedicels. You can see them here and here, very short. And here's another picture of the same species, purple false foxglove. Once again, you can see that very short pedicels, very different, and it doesn't have the overarching effect inside the flowers. Here's a third species of the Agellinus. This is obtuse-leafed, and you can see here it has the long pedicel, like the slender leaf we saw before. It has an interesting characteristic is that there's sort of a dimpling, a little dimpling of each one of these lobes of the corolla. So this is a much less common than the other two species we saw before, Agellinus obtusifolia, but all these are found regularly on the Cumberland Plateau. Now this is also called false foxglove, but it's been separated under a different genus. This is the Oriolaria, and these are yellow flowered, not the purples and blues that we saw in the species before. And this one is particularly interesting to me, this species. This is normally found along the shores of the TVA lakes and sometimes along rivers. But this was found up on the Cumberland Plateau in a place called Hinch Mountain, which is unusual for having limestone way up on a mountain, which is the habitat this plant requires. And I was out following the flagging for the Cumberland Trail, trying to see if there was anything that should be avoided when they actually built the trail. It was in the flag state. And I ran into the trail going right through a population of this. And this is considered a special concern species by the state of Tennessee. So this is something that the trail definitely should avoid. And so I flagged it, put up my special flags that I have, and then contacted Bob Fulcher, who's the manager of the Cumberland Trail, to arrange to make sure that this gets protected. I hope it has been. I haven't been back recently to see. The trail hasn't been, as far as I know, it's not yet been built, but I may need to go back and reflag this because it's been a long time. Here's another of the yellow false foxgloves. This one has a kind of airy light feel to it because of the high degree of cutting of the leaves. And also another thing that seems to be striking about this are these buds. These are flower buds here. They have this pinkish reddish color when they show up in an interesting way. Okay, this is not a flower. This is I thought was interesting. Here it's changed its leaves to red very early. This is a vine. It's growing on top of sumac here. So this is climbing false buckwheat. So it is related to buckwheat. You know, buckwheat is something that's is not a wheat at all, but it is used to produce a flour. So it's called buckwheat, and it does occasionally occur in the wild. It's not a native plant, but this is called false climbing buckwheat, and it is a native plant. I think it's rather lovely. Here's the fruits of the plant up here. Okay, so I'm going to go into another section here where we deal with the idea of inflorescences. We're not going to get technical. Here's some of the scientific names. We're going to kind of stay away from those. I'll show them at times, but we're going to do this in a simpler way. So we're going to look at bushes and small trees with bunched small white flowers that occur on the Cumberland Plateau. So here's what I'm calling elongated inflorescences. So you have an axis here, and the flowers occur out along that axis. This is technically a raceme. Here's another one where we have an elongation. So this one is Virginia willow, Idia virginica, and this one is red elderberry. This is the rarer type of elderberry. It's found in the Blue Ridge Mountains, but it's also found often in gorges of the Cumberland Plateau. And here's the axis, and it's elongated in a different sort of way along that axis. That's why I'm calling these elongated inflorescences. Here's a shot that shows the Virginia willow in its habitat. It'll either grow along the side of a stream or in a wetland. Here's one that looks a bit like a blueberry, but it's not. This is maleberry, Lionia ligustrina. Well, maleberry has always bothered me because a berry is a fruit, so it should be female. Why in the world was it called maleberry? Well, I've been asking that question, looking around, and yesterday I found a place that seems to have an answer for it. It says that male is actually a corruption of the Latin malus for apple. So somebody thought the berry, I guess, looked like an apple. So this was maleberry. It is a very commonly used common name for this plant, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So Leonia ligustrina, that's this thing here. It is related to blueberries, has a blueberry-like looking plant. And once again, I'm talking about an inflorescence, a grouping of flowers along an axis. And here's a much bigger showing of that plant, an extensive. Here's an axis with the flowers growing all along it. And here presumably is last year's fruit. This is one I showed in my spring show. So this is the witch alder, Fothergilla major, and it has an axis, but no petals. In this case, all the show is put on by the stamens. So we have conspicuous stamens, no petals. Here's another one. So I've tried to be pretty complete and show all these ones that have the white flowers, all the trees and shrubs. This one is a mountain pepper bush, Clethra acuminata, technically a raceme, but it's, as I say, an elongated one. Now we're going to go to disc-like inflorescences. So this is actually the common elderberry before we saw the uncommon one, the red elderberry, and it had an elongated inflorescence. This has a flattened inflorescence. It's sort of a disc of flowers. Here we see what a pollinator from a distance might look, and he would see not individual flowers, but he would see the discs. And this is Alabama viburnum, Viburnum alabamense, very common on the Cumberland Plateau. Now let's see, as we go in as a pollinator, we get close up, and now we can focus on individual flower to get the nectar from it. This is the same species, the Alabama viburnum, Viburnum alabamense. And here it is in fruit. Now, in this case, the plant is not attracting pollinators, it's going to want to attract birds. And it's rather colorful, having the red stems and the purple fruits to attract birds in to disperse its seeds. Here's a dogwood. Well, it may not look much like dogwood to you if you're just used to flowering dogwood, which has a special bracts to show off its inflorescence. This doesn't have that. Interesting, all the dogwoods are somewhat identifiable by their veination. They have these veins that come out and then sort of curl up along the edges of the leaf. So this is alternate leaved dogwood. Most of the dogwoods are opposite leaved. This is an exception. And sometimes it's hard to tell that it's an exception. They kind of can clump up. As I was trying to be complete, the witch hobble barely occurs in the Cumberland Plateau. It's much more common, say, in the Smokies. And it has an interesting inflorescence. Here are the flowers that actually make the seeds. These things out here are sterile. They're just for show. They're to help attract the pollinators to come in to work on the real place where the fertilization can take place. So this one is, I've only found one record for this in the Cumberland Plateau, much more common in the Smokies. Now here is one that is common on the Cumberland Plateau. Looks about like the same thing, but it's unrelated. It has the sterile flowers out here to be attractive for the pollinators, and it has the ones in here that will actually produce the seeds. So this is wild hydrangea, Hydrangea arborescens. And it's interesting to see that two species unrelated, the one we saw before, which was a viburnum, and this one, which is a hydrangea, came up with sort of the same thing. So sometimes this is called parallel evolution when this happens. Now we're going to go to the ball-like inflorescences. This one over here, this is the button bush, and I thought it looked a bit like a COVID model, so I dubbed it the COVID bush. So this is Cephalanthus occidentalis. The things that you see sticking out here are the styles, the female part of the plant sticking out from this. And this is, as you can see, a wetland plant. Here's another one over here. This is the 9-bark in the rose family, Physiocarpus opulifolius. So two that are ball-shaped in these. And here's a picture showing some of the leaves of the button bush. The button bush often has opposite leaves, but occasionally will have 3, and that makes it really easy to identify, even if you don't have the flowers. Here's a bigger picture of the 9-bark. 9-bark Physiocarpus. And here it is in fruit. And this, as we say, would be in the condition to attract birds rather than pollinators, to get the seeds spread. And this is my last slide. This is the Ceanothus americanus, New Jersey tea, and has a panicle of umbels if you want to get technical about it. But by my simple system, this is a ball-shaped. And I think that's the last. Yes. This is another section. We don't have time to really get into that. We've gone plenty long enough with this. So we'll call it at this point. Karen?
Well, thank you. That was informative. I have learned so much tonight.
I hope it wasn't too much. And of course, it's too
No.
bad that you can't go out and look for those plants so easily right now, because they're going to either
That
be
won't stop me
gone or
from
in bad
trying.
condition.
That won't stop me from trying tomorrow. I'm going
Okay.
to go look in my yard at least.
Well, look at your goldenrods and try to find some of those wing stems, so you can.
Oh,
find your frost
I know I have wing stems, so
well, you can watch
definitely
those.
I have the,
Watch those for your frost flowers.
yes, I have the yellow wing stems.
Mm-hmm.
Can you back up to the slide of the fruit of the 9-bark?
Okay, let me do that. I can do that easily. There we go.
I have that growing on the side of my house, and it really is this beautiful. It's a lovely tree to have.
It is a really lovely. It
Yes.
is, of course, is a native plant, and I expect it sounds like it's been cultivated, huh? So
yes, thanks to Grow Wild Nursery.
yeah, but it's not terribly common. It's a often on cobble bars.
Uh-huh. It does lovely on the side of the house, on the north side of the house of all places.
Yeah.
So the color, the leaves are, when they turn color, are a really brilliant, well, I shouldn't say brilliant, they're really more of a deep burgundy wine color,
Wow.
but very striking.
Very good.
Among
Did
the
anybody agree or disagree with my butterfly identification?
lots of agreement.
Lots of agreement. Okay, I'm getting started in butterflies.
You're right, Larry.
Rita,
Good.
Rita says it is. Rita's one of the members here.
Okay, so I used her book. That's worked for me.
Good,
I also got some Diana fritillaries by using her book.
good. Most of this is complimentary. So informative and fascinating. Thank you. Excellent presentation. Loved listening. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love the clarity you offered. Thank you. Thank you. So
Well,
very good.
This is something I'm learning how to do, and doing the photography of the small parts is obviously a work in progress. So figuring out how to do it. I probably need better equipment than what I have to do it.
For close-ups, yeah, focusing is more difficult.
Focusing is difficult, and just all the time. And obviously, for teaching purposes, it's usually best to take a specimen of the plant and put it against a plain background, unfortunately. But we also like to see things as they are in nature. So we have to do to some degree both.
Thank you so much, Larry. I am inspired to bundle up and get outside.
All righty.
What was the plant with the blueberries? And this is fairly...
Okay, that was the Alabama viburnum. And I can get back there, I expect.
Leanne Morona asked that question.
Oh, there we were. There's the, yes, that's the same species that we've been looking at. This was the third picture of it, Alabama viburnum. Now, it used to be that this may be confusing to people because it used to have it's been split up somewhat. So Alabama viburnum may not be familiar to people. That's because the viburnums have sort of been reclassified and changed around. It turns out that we have on the Cleveland Plateau mostly this species, which for a while people didn't even realize we had in Tennessee until they realized that when the reclassification was done, that was what a whole lot of our arrowwoods. That's the usual common name. I use viburnum here, but arrowwood would be a common name for this guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rita Venable asked, what's the difference between Oldfield aster and white heath aster?
White heath aster. I'm not sure what that is without a scientific name, I guess.
Rita, if you're still on, can you, do you want to elaborate? You have to unmute.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
So, Larry, you were talking about bushy aster.
Demosum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, demosum.
And we talked about demosum and pilosum, the very small asters with the small white flowers.
Okay, but then in the Tennessee Native Plant Book, there's a aster pilosus. Has that been renamed?
Well, the problem is we have yes, it's the same thing. As we said, the genus aster has been completely broken up.
Mm-hmm.
We no longer have things called asters, and scientifically in our area at all. They've all been put in different genera. So when you change the genera, then they have to change the epithet, the second part of the scientific name, to agree with it. So that's what happened there. So Symphyotrichum becomes pilosum to be in agreement for the Latin.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that okay. And bushy aster is a different species.
Right.
That's the demosum you said.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in the Wildflower book, demosum?
I'm sure it is. It's got to be. They're very, very common. should be there.
Okay. All right. I'll see if I can find it. But it would have been under Aster, right?
Yes, it would be under Astor.
The-
So Dennis was conservative and didn't want to confuse people, and so he didn't make that change. But now that change is pretty thoroughly out there.
Okay, yeah, it's
The-
in here.
I looked up the scientific name, Symphyotrichum
Mhm.
ericoides, Ericoides.
Mhm.
It was
I'm not-
formerly the Aster ericoides.
Ericoides.
Okay.
And that's not a species I'm terribly familiar with.
Okay.
And Larry,
But
so
it would be similar. It'd be similar to those ones, the two we showed it with the small white flowers.
So Larry, I'm really glad you brought this up because in the book it has bushy aster demosus under the stiff leaf aster as being a similar, but to me it's more like
Yes,
the white heath aster.
right.
So I've probably been misidentifying that some because I just never thought I would be looking at demosus. So thank you.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and check all my photos now. Oh my God.
In that line, one of the chat comments from Donna is extremely informative, but I feel I need to go back and check my plant IDs on my photos. I'm in North Cumberland now and seeing many of these plants. Many have gone to seed.
Yes,
So,
it is tough to do a lot of the identification now, but I mean, it certainly takes more effort when the flowers are gone or at least degraded.
yes. And John asked,
The asters are the asters we've been talking about. These are some of the longest lasting things.
yes.
So you may be able to identify some of those white asters into November.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, John says, great job, Larry. When is the next field trip to the Cumberland Plateau?
Well, that's a job that Bart and some of us we could use some more people that would come up with hikes that they want to lead. So we usually do that
John,
in the winter time, try to make plans.
John, if you want to send a note to the info@tnps.org, I'll pass it along to Larry.
Oh, yeah, sounds good. I didn't exactly understand if there was going to be another field trip or they're trying to prepare one.
Oh, I don't think there are any more field trips this season.
No.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, the Wild Ones has one in November, I noticed.
Okay.
So they're pushing the season.
Sophie Buck asks, what was the first sunflower we talked about?
Okay, that was the narrow leaf sunflower. And you remember how the leaves were incredibly distinctive. It's one you can easily identify. If you can recognize a sunflower and then you look at the leaves and you see that, or you think it's a sunflower and you look at those leaves, then you'll know for sure because there's nothing else that has leaves like that. Very distinctive.
Hannah Martin has volunteered here. She says, I have photographed many of these species and would be happy to offer them or look for plants for you for future presentations.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Again, Hannah, if you want to send a note to info@tnps.org, I'll pass it along to Larry. Rita says, very helpful, Larry. Bushy aster, white heath aster differences and similarities are very interesting. Thank you. And is bushy aster and the calico aster the same?
Let's see. I
Yeah.
remember calico was a common name for one of those guys. I'd have to look it up. I don't
No,
remember.
it's laterifolia.
Yes, laterifolia. Okay, that's another
Laterifolia.
common one. Very similar, has a little bit bigger leaves than the other two that we talked about.
Okay.
Laterifolius is also a very common one. All of those can be out there and can be confusing.
Well, and it
But
says that the disc flower is usually purple, but to me, it looks like they all turn kind of purplish when they get older. Is that?
Mine have start with the yellow and then turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they all do that, don't they?
They all do that, I think.
Oh.
I've not seen that as a character that really helped too much, but
Okay. All right.
All right, does anyone else have a question for Larry? If so, unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. I know there's a lot of compliments in here, Larry.
okay, very
I'll
good.
have to send a copy of it to the chat to you so you could see.
Well, it was a bit of a miracle that this actually happened. So, given our start.
But it
Will
did.
this,
It was meant to
will
be.
this be, will this be available again to review?
I believe
Okay,
that's
thank
correct.
you very much. Thank you.
It'll be, it's recorded, I believe, so we should have
Yes, this has been recorded. The entire presentation will be available on the seminar page of the Tennessee website, the TNPS website. So if you'll go in there, give me till Thursday or Friday and I'll have it posted. Okay.
I was going to ask about that New Jersey.
You'll have to speak into your microphone.
Oh, sorry. Is this better?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. The New Jersey tea plant. I just planted several in our yard, and I was made fun of because New Jersey being so north, it does come down as far south as here and does well.
Yes, it's a common plant. It could be called Tennessee tea,
Oh, good. Okay.
as far as that goes. I suppose that somehow the people in New Jersey got to it first, but
Yeah.
or maybe they were very good at using it for tea. I don't know. In that area.
Another question, is V. alabamense used in gardens much?
I don't have any idea on that.
Does anyone else know?
The arrowwood type of viburnums, I would think that they would be used in cultivation. They certainly are pretty. There are a lot of viburnums, of course, that are not the arrowwood group, which are in cultivation. But the arrowwoods, I would presume would be, but I'm not familiar with.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you
Alrighty.
very much, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry we had such a terrible time in the beginning, but
we had a
we'll
scare.
figure it out. We'll figure it out. And we appreciate you coming. This was, you've helped us not only to appreciate the beautiful flowers, but to be able to use them to identify the plants a little bit better. So thank you for all the tips and techniques there. I know I'm going to go back through this again and see what I can learn from looking at it a second time. Because I think it's, well, for me, it's going to take a second time for it to all sink in, I guess. But
Great job. Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With that, then, if there are no further questions, I'm going to say good night to everyone.
All right. Good night.
And thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Larry.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks,
Thank
Larry.
you.
Good night.